This is the Dremel 670 mini saw attachment, and it is really good for cutting thin pieces of plywood. The attachment uses the grey nut and the square wire to transfer the power from the Dremel to the attachment. Just put the wire inside the nut and secure the attachment to the front of the Dremel. We secure the saw blade by placing it inside the attachment and tightening the screw while holding down the shaft lock button. The slot on the screw is a little bit tight and long, so it can be hard to find a screwdriver that fits, but the small Dremel screwdriver should be enough to secure the saw blade. Make sure that the Dremel logo or the arrows are facing away from the attachment. My mini saw attachment only came with one saw blade. We will test the durability of this later. The mini saw is good for cutting thin pieces of plywood. The thickest it can cut is a 1/4 inch plywood. Here I am cutting a 1/5 of an inch plywood sheet, and it cuts through it fairly quick and straight. The cut is always supposed to be done from the right to the left. The attachment has a clear housing that helps you a little bit with following the cut line. But you can also use this arrow on the left side of the attachment to follow the cut line. I like to use a high RPM when cutting wood with this blade, around 30 to 35,000 RPMs. The attachment is set at an angle so you can start the cut from the center of a plywood sheet. This way the tool will not get in the way of the cut and it is easier to make plunge cuts. The attachment has a spring-loaded guard that you need to press all the way down when cutting. Just make sure that the attachment is resting flat against the plywood surface to achieve the cleanest cut. Here I'm cutting some plywood that is a little bit larger than a 1/4 of an inch. The blade will not be able to cut completely through this. Here I'm cutting some laminate flooring, and it is just a hair thicker than a 1/4 inch. Anytime you use a serrated saw blade with the Dremel, there will be a chance of getting some kickback. A kickback usually happens when the saw blade catches the wood and runs off in the opposite direction of the cut. This can happen fast and can be a little bit scary the first few times, but if you pay attention when cutting, it usually works out fine. Now, the mini saw attachment will not kick back as hard as the one you just saw, but it is the same concept. Be especially careful when starting a cut and on the edges of a workpiece. The best way to avoid a kickback is to cut straight. These saw blades do not like to cut turns and radiuses. When you don't cut straight with a mini saw attachment, you will feel the blade tries to pull you in the opposite direction of the cut, or it will bog down the Dremel. Hold the Dremel firmly with 2 hands and never hold the wood that you're cutting with your hands. Let's do a quick durability test of the saw blade. I've already made at least 20 cuts with it. Let's do 20 more to see if it still cuts. So after 40 plus cuts, the saw blade looks like this. I would say that it is fairly durable.